Imagine our surprise when we found out that shortly after the Beloit event, 4 of the friendship participants had decided to do a joint interview, admittedly after a slight bit of arm twisting by yours truly. We headed back to the little village roughly 2 weeks after we first left, not exactly knowing what to expect, but elated that a few chance takers, if you will, had decided to sit down with the other side on a mosquito-laden day at a park known for its fine fishing.
So here we are in Friendship, Wisconsin. I was just curious, how were politics different when you all were growing up than they are today?
Well, I don't know if I really remember the age that I knew of politics, but the best I can come up with is when I was young and I was just started raising my kids. And then they started school and I got involved in things there. I didn't realize it was politics at the time. I would just get involved in situations and go to meetings and do what I thought was right, what I was taught. Use some common sense and try to relate to things that way. And of course, then as the years progressed, I realized that's politics. Gets involved in voting. So it wasn't quite as intense, obviously. The intensity now is quite a bit greater. I think that's because of our news medias and our internets and all of that. So there's more exposure, and I think that makes it more intense.
Anybody else?
Yeah, sure. The first election that I voted in was in '64, for Johnson and Goldwater, and they didn't at that time, they didn't. They criticized Goldwater for his opinions, for his issues. Not, they didn't call him names. They didn't try to defeat his character or anything. They didn't, it was about, of course, they made a big deal about that he was going to use nuclear weapons and stuff, and that we should hold in. So there was a famous commercial at the time, about a little girl picking daisies, should bomb, shouldn't bomb. And they used that against. And of course, in those days they had, television was existent, and I guess the Kennedy-Nixon debates and things, but it wasn't like it is now, where Republicans have their own TV channel with Fox Channel, which was originally called GOP TV, was what they were going to set it up for. So, I don't know, I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say about it.
I want to jump in on, Harry reminded me back in the 1960s, I was pretty naive. I didn't follow politics all that much. As I often say, I was chasing babies and changing diapers at the same time. But I do remember and I trusted the news media. I remember Walter Cronkite being on the television. What he said was right, But what I found that I happened to own a shortwave radio at that time, and I still do. And I was listening on my back porch, and I happened to pick up Voice of America. And this was during the Vietnam conflict. And they described this battle. And they gave the name of it, and I don't remember what it is or what it was. And then I was switching around and I picked up North Vietnam. And the Allied troops were just beat up. And the Voice of America, it was the other way around. The Vietnam troops were beat up. And I just happened to pick up Johannesburg, South Africa at the same night. And I was listening to that news broadcast. And it was the same battle. And that's the point where I became very skeptical of the news, where I said, somebody's not telling me the truth. And here I have 3 news organizations telling me exactly the same battle, and it doesn't even sound like the same thing. And at that point, I started paying more attention to what was going on.
Well, for me, I think I must have grown up in a rather political family. and a non-traditional family for the time. I was born in '55, and my mother was divorced, and we lived with my grandparents. And my grandfather was very much into the news. You sat and you watched. And talk radio back then, I mean, it was educational. The first thing I really truly remember was the election with Goldwater and Johnson. And I was probably in 4th grade, and I woke up that morning because I fell asleep the night before going, please, Lord, don't let Goldwater be our president. Because that TV ad that you talked about scared the devil out of me.
8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd.
I mean, it was, but people were different then. I mean, you move into even the Nixon years. Nixon might have been a lot of things, but he knew how to behave with government protocol and whatnot. It just seems like it was a time when truth generally mattered. I mean, I think we all know that politicians, if they don't lie, they're kind of taking credit for things that they really don't have control over. They tell us they're going to do things they can't, you know? And, but you could trust people's word back then, where I don't feel that's the case today.